Greetings dudes, and welcome to another video. So what I have here today is what would I have done if I were to play at the North American WCQ. By the time of this recording, the North American WCQ is about to begin. We've already had the player playoffs on day 1, and day 2 and day 3 would be the main event. So obviously I'm not at the event, but this is what I would have played if I were at the event. And I'm going to talk about everything that I probably would have done if I were there, because maybe some insight of what I'm sharing here right now could help you whether you're at that event or just playing on this format. As you already know, Infinite Forbidden is now legal, so now we can play Dominus Purge as well as a few other cards. But let's get to it in a moment. So this is the standard Ritual Beast deck that you saw on my last deck report. The main difference that we have now is that Protoss is in the main deck. And I will explain why Protoss is in the main deck now. Besides that, we also have Dominus Purge. This card, I think any deck that can play this card should be playing this card. It's a really powerful card this format. Outside of that, I think pretty much everything else is the same. Let's talk about the side deck real quick, because there is something that happened at the player playoffs that I think is very important to talk about. So if you see my side deck, you already know it has been almost the same, but I want to specifically talk about these 5 cards. So why are these cards worth talking about right now? So right now the name of the format is either you're playing Fiendsmith or you're playing against Fiendsmith. If you are playing a Fiendsmith strategy, then these 5 cards are going to be really powerful in your main deck or in your side deck, because you can take away their Fiendsmith fusion monster, and then you can turn it into your own Fiendsmith plays. Or if you're playing Closed Heaven in your extra deck, then that means that whatever monster you end up taking just becomes an extender that can help you start up your Fiendsmith plays. And that's where Protoss comes in. Right before this event, or right before the legality of Infinite Forbidden, we've been using Colossus as the main, like one of our main win conditions in our strategy. But now, since more players are playing Mind Control and like other control cards, the Colossus win condition is not safe anymore. So you kind of want another win condition in your deck that just plays around all these cards, and that's where Protoss comes in. The one thing that you need to be careful is that Protoss does conflict with Dominus Purge, so that is like the biggest caveat that you have right now. But outside of that, Protoss is just really powerful if you just summon it in your strategy. If you saw the player playoffs from day 1 of the North American WCQ, then you already know that Snake Eyes and Yubel are the 2 biggest decks right now that you should be worried about, and Protoss handles both of them. So that's how we know that this card is like very comfortable. I want to talk about other board breakers. A lot of people are debating whether or not board breakers are really good, like in the main or side deck, because right now the Fiendsmith engine is just really strong against like a plethora of hand traps. But that's not to say that some hand traps are not worth it. That's why you see Troll and Lockbird in my side deck. The other really cool thing about Droll is that it does not conflict with Dominus Purge. Ash Blossom does conflict, but Ash Blossom, you kind of need it for the branded matchup, and you kind of need it for like other specific, like more roguish decks. So that's something that you need to be wary of whenever you're just playing this strategy. Let's see what else we can talk about here. But yeah, the number 1 reason why I think Ritual Beast is like a really safe option or a really good option is because it's a deck that can play Dimension Shifter. If your deck can play Dimension Shifter, you should really highly be suggested to play it, because not many decks in this format, including the Yubel-centric strategies, have a way to deal with this. And if you pair this up with like Dominus Purge and like Imperm, like these are like 9 hand traps that you can play in your strategy that really just handles a lot of matchups. But more importantly, if we talk about these 6 cards, you don't play into Talents, you don't play into, in Dominus Purge's case, you don't play into Crossout because not many people will Crossout this. You don't play into Phantom of Jubel because that is a safety net that a lot of people do against a lot of hand traps. And you also don't have to worry about Cold by the Grave. So that's one thing to be thoughtful of when you see this. So now that we talked about Ritual Beast, what other strategy would I have played in this format? And this is the other strategy that we have. If I were to play a Fiendsmith deck, this probably would have been it. So Chimera Fiendsmith is nothing new. You probably, if you've seen Gauso's channel or seen like DB Grinder videos, you've probably already seen this deck around like in a couple of places. Why do I like Chimera Fiendsmith right now? I think Chimera Fiendsmith is a really good deck if you're facing against hand trap strategies. I think any deck that plays hand traps will just lose to this deck. Because this deck is really good at simplifying the game state, and it's also really good at just like punishing your opponent from trying to stop your initial plays. Cards like the King Chimera, like the Jubel engine is also really good. As you can see here, we're playing 3 Thrones, 1 of each Jubel. And the other thing that makes the Chimera strategy also really good is that if you play Fiendsmith Jubel, you already know that that deck has a plethora of bricks. But in the Chimera-centric strategy, these Jubel cards are not real bricks. These are just fusion materials for your Chimera fusion. And so the other real good thing about Fiendsmith, and the reason I really like this strategy, is because it synergizes with a lot of cards. With Nightmare Apprentice and with the Bestials and the Chimera monsters, you have enough level 6s so you can make Beatrice and like Kaiki Wave Caesar, even if they try to stop half of your like initial plays involving the Fiendsmith engine. Also, getting to Close Heaven is really easy in this deck. You just have a lot of plethora of extenders. Now let's talk about the hand trap choices. As you can see here, you see Ash Blossom, you see Diddy Crow, you see Droll and Lombard, and you see Bestials. These are the hand trap choices I would have made if I were to play this strategy. I probably would have played a little bit more Bestials. My first initial build was playing 4 Bestials instead of 2, but I just figured I kind of wanted room for Talents. I think Talents is really strong, like this upcoming format, even if you have to worry about stuff against like the Desiree. You just have enough ways to just push through your opponent's interactions. I think Droll and Lombard is also really important because it just checks the Fiendsmith engine. So any deck that just plays the Fiendsmith engine that is very consistent will probably have Droll to be considered as a choke point. That's not to say that Droll automatically just wins you in the matchup. It just means that Droll gives you an edge if you resolve it against those strategies. And the Droll is really powerful at simplifying the game state, which is something you really want to do in a deck like this one. So if you see this bottom 5 cards, because if you don't count these 5 cards right here, the main deck is 40 cards. These 5 cards are other filler spots that I have considered. The number 1 spot that I've considered is Mirror Resonator. Mirror Resonator is here because it's a light fiend that can be searched with Nightmare Throne and can be used as a fusion material for Phantom of Jubel, and it can also be reborn with Grave Squirmer. Some Chimera decks are playing the Sinister Necron package, which consists of these 2 cards. I don't know if I'm a fan of those, but Dust the Gold is another fusion spell that you can just grab in your strategy. So that is another thing to consider. Terraforming is a card that you need to be careful if you're playing in your deck because Droll and Lombard is really popular right now. So please be wary of that if you decide to play this card. So let's go with the extra deck real quick. I think 2 Phantom of Jubels is mandatory. Every time I was testing with this engine, a lot of people would just try to bait my Phantom of Jubel by just using certain cards to try to stop your combos. And after that happens, I end up with the Jubel rotation because the Phantom of Jubel is just going to pop the Spirit of Jubel. And Spirit of Jubel is not once per turn, so you just end up summoning the regular Jubel. So what you can end up doing here is you just end up like using this as an extender and just end up Phantom of Jubel again. So this is what we call the Phantom Loop. And any deck or engine that can play this, like, will notice that this is just way too powerful of an engine to ignore. So this is just really powerful in this deck if you end up like doing this play. Outside of that, I think everything else is standard. You pretty much have to play one of all these cards. Desiree is the one I've been iffy about because this card is not summoned really easily unless you do the track display. But it is still like an import piece that you can end up on. And if you can end on like Engraver after you like Chimera them and they already tried to disrupt you, like, you're already ahead of the game by a lot. Especially if you have like Mirror Sword Knight and Quarrel like in your graveyard. I kind of want to talk about Quarrel specifically. I know that this card is weak to draw an upward, but the graveyard effect comes up a lot. Like, a lot of targeting cards are being played right now, especially like, for example, the Desiree. So that's where the Portal comes in to just try to stop it. And Desiree cannot stop Portal because it is a effect that starts in the graveyard and not on the field. So let's talk about these side deck cards. These are not specifically just side deck cards. These are cards that I just considered to be played in the deck. I talked about Silhouette Rabbit before. In this particular deck, this card is even more useful because it is an illusion monster, meaning that you can use it as a fusion material for Verpomet. You can also reborn it like with like the Chimera monsters, and this setting Azurune as part of your win condition whenever you go first is just really powerful, especially if you end up like resolving your Chimera lineup. So we have the Tau, we have the Diabels, and we have the Miru. I think against any board breaking strategy or any strategy that just tries to use board breakers on you, Diabels is just really powerful. Like, again, this deck is really powerful against the hand trap decks, so you don't have to worry about that. That's where Diabels comes in. This pretty much just punishes like all like the runic decks, all the white wood decks probably cannot handle this card. Between like Diabels and Guardian Chimera and like Desiree, you just have enough cards to just handle your opponent's non-engine. And this just makes it really easy for you to just like contest the board. I already talked about the control cards. I think if you're playing a Fiendsmith strategy, doesn't matter which, you should be playing these cards. These cards are just way too strong, and they just swing the tempo of the game because they just turn your plays into Fiendsmith plays without committing into your engine cards. I guess the last card we can talk about would be like Cosmic Cyclone. I think Cosmic Cyclone should be in your deck. I know that I'm not playing this in my Ritual Beast deck. However, the way I'm playing Ritual Beast is just very different. I might make another deck video just talking about how I handle like other cards with Ritual Beast, if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I think Cosmic Cyclone is very important because if you're going first, it stops the Necroquip Princess play. If you go second, this just contests against like the IP setup from Snake Eyes, the Temple of the Snake Eyes. It also contests with the Desiree negate effect because Desiree needs like the Link monster in order to negate. So Cosmic Cyclone just gets rid of that, or just brings this out. And it's just really good spot removal, which is something that you should be wary of. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this video informative and to your liking and understanding. Good luck to all the players at North American World Review, and welcome to Infinite Forbidden format.